Let's bring in foreign editor at The Australian, Greg Sheridan. Greg, diplomacy and these summits can be tricky and, messy at times, but this is really frustrating for Prime Minister Albanese. Donald Trump leaving before they get the chance even to say good day.
Yeah, Kieran, there's no getting around it. This is a complete humiliation for Albanese. So Trump has had multiple meetings with Starmer and Carney, but he'd rather have another meeting with them than have his first ever meeting with Albanese. There's just no way you can get around this. This is a complete snub. Now, Andrew Clennell reported that the Prime Minister's party had tried to secure a Washington meeting as well. I understood previously that they didn't want to go to Washington. They were scared of appearing in the White House. But if they have indeed been trying to get a Washington meeting and were being put off, and now get snubbed at the G7, can you imagine George W. Bush doing this to John Howard? Can you imagine Bill Clinton doing this to Paul Keating? Now, Trump is very mercurial and very difficult and a bit erratic, but, you know, in our national interests, we need to have a relationship with him, and at that level, you'd say Albanese has failed completely.
Can you cut him some slack in the sense that these meetings with Starmer and Carney happened on day one? Albanese's schedule there, as not a member of the G7, but G7 plus those invitees, was meant to happen on day two, but unfortunately Mr Trump's heading back to Washington.
Well, Kieran, like you, but for even more decades, I've been attending and covering summits, and the bottom line is the leaders do whatever they like. And if Trump wanted to see Albanese, he would have said, you know, come across to this bit of the G7 instead of, you know, attending the pots and pans exhibition that you're exhibiting in Seattle or something. It would have been as easy as apple pie, And, you know, the Australian officials are spinning that because Trump didn't disagree with Keir Starmer, who answered a question on AUKUS. I don't think Starmer himself said anything proactive on AUKUS. But of course Starmer likes AUKUS because we're going to spend tens or even hundreds of billions of dollars on building British nuclear submarines. But Trump may not kill AUKUS altogether, but he still may not give us any subs. So we get to the early 2030s and the Americans say, well, guess what? We can't spare you any Virginia subs after all, but we'll continue to station the odd one in Perth. And why don't you guys just go ahead and build your AUKUS subs with Britain, which was the Morrison government's original plan anyway, and then we'll get our first AUKUS subs sometime in the late 2040s. That's a very, very plausible scenario, which would be entirely consistent with the AUKUS agreement notionally going forward. And I think the $3 billion Cam mentioned we're going to give the Americans, that's actually $3 billion US. So it's more like $5 billion. So why would the Americans pull out of this deal? Yeah. They're going to get $5 billion plus some basing facilities. And the deal says if the president thinks giving a Virginia to Australia would diminish American naval capability, he doesn't have to do it.
Yeah. And so when we look at the reason why the president is heading back to Washington, obviously the Middle East is the main priority for him at the moment. How concerned are you? How worried should we be, Greg, as to where this tit for tat is going? Because it doesn't look like it's anywhere near over.
Well, Trump's remarks are a little hard to read. When he said at one point he thought a deal would be easy to negotiate, but, you know, both sides would have to make concessions. It's impossible to follow what that means. There are no concessions for Israel to make. It doesn't have to drop its tariffs on Iran or anything. The bottom line is, for this to work, Iran has to give up its uranium enrichment facilities. Now, in order for the world to believe that that's true, Iran would have to dismantle or blow up its uranium enrichment facilities in front of Western eyewitnesses. That would be a tremendous humiliation for Iran. The fact that Iran wants to go back to the negotiating table now is a sign of the humiliating defeat that it is suffering at the hands of Israel. Now, Israel will not be able to repeat this operation for many, many years, and it would hope never to have to repeat it. So it is going to keep going until it thinks it has done all the damage it can possibly do to Iran's nuclear facilities. Now, Trump moving 2 aircraft carriers into the region, probably their role will be only to provide aircraft to help Israel intercept Iranian missiles heading for Israel. Rather, a lot of those missiles have got through, a very small percentage, but nonetheless, they're causing some real damage in Israel. The Americans, and I think possibly even the Brits, although I don't know this for sure, are helping the Israelis intercept those missiles. I don't think America will join Israel's offensive unless Iran is stupid enough to attack an American in the Middle East. If they do that, then I think for Trump, he won't do the taco trade. Trump always chickens out. If the Iranians are stupid enough to attack an American base or personnel in the Middle East, I think America responds with tremendous force. But the operation overall, I think it goes until Israel is finished.
The other question is a big one that is being asked. Will Trump provide the bunker busters to destroy the key nuclear facilities in Iran? That the view is that Israel doesn't have that same capacity as America does, the powerful bunker busters. The US does. Some speculation that indeed Trump will do that over coming days. And if he did, that would be an interesting divergence from the message that the MAGA crowd welcomed so much during the campaign, that he wouldn't start or engage in any new Middle East wars.
Yeah, absolutely fascinating question, Kieran, and that's the key question right now. So the Israelis appear to have done tremendous damage and may even have destroyed the Natanz facility and perhaps Isfahan as well. The key remaining one is the Fordo nuclear facility, which has enriched uranium and is in the side of a mountain. Now, the bunker busters, I think, are quite a complex question because only America has the bombs big enough to do it, but they can't be carried on normal planes. So Israel, as I understand it, but, there are lots of secrets here. Israel doesn't tell us everything. As I understand it, Israel doesn't have planes which could carry those huge bunker busters. So America would have to do something else. They'd either have to fly the mission themselves, or they'd have to lend the plane to Israel, which is basically the same as flying the mission themselves, or there might be some other technical fix. The Israelis are incredibly inventive and ingenious, and if anybody can work out how to blow up Fordo, it is the Israelis, especially if the Americans are helping them.